Hey guys, I'm really thankful for the new evangelization um, because that's what brought me back home to the Catholic Church. You see, the old evangelization, the church evangelized pagans, told them the gospel. Then, about 60 years ago, the church realized there was a need. There was a need to bring back Christians, to bring them back home. See, most people in the civilized world have heard the gospel, and some of the biggest churches were former Catholics, and they say the second largest group of people are nuns that have no religion at all, and a lot of them were former Catholics. So the church, in her wisdom, started to emphasize this new evangelization. We need to go out and win baptized Catholics back, bring them back home to the church, you know, and I'm living testimony of the new evangelization, that it works. And that saying is true, that weak Catholics become Protestant and strong Protestants become Catholics. Because when I left the Catholic Church, I was very poorly catechized, didn't know actually what the church believed, what the Bible says. And then I became, an on fire evangelical Christian and started becoming anti-Catholic. And I thank God there wasn't YouTube back then, because I was as foolish as some of these baby Christians on YouTube today. I did a couple videos about Isaiah Salvador and Jackie Stout Van Tyne, and these young Christians that are on fire for Jesus, but they know very little about the Bible and very little about church history, and it's so embarrassing to watch them. And I wouldn't even say anything negative about them if they didn't attack the Catholic Church. But you attack my family, I'm gonna, I got to defend the faith. But the way the new evangelism worked with me was, no one just came out and said, you need to repent, you're going to hell. It was just people, just living their faith and sharing some truths about the Catholic Church. And because a lot of anti-Catholics, like I were, whether they be Protestant or a nun, no religious affiliation at all, a lot of them have a bad view of Catholicism because there's so much anti-Catholicism, especially the media. The media hates the Catholic Church, So just try and share positive things about the church, because most people you come across, you're not going to get an intimate relationship and a deep conversation. These are the people that you pull into the faith. But just like when you're passing by meeting people, you just want to have your conversation seasoned with salt. We're the salt of the earth, we're the light of the world, and just get them thinking, and just plant seeds, and and hopefully someone else will come along and water that seed, and then God causes the growth. So one thing I never really thought about was how the saints can help us in the new evangelization. So yesterday, I really didn't even think about it at the time until afterwards. I was talking to a woman who told me her husband was from India, and I told her my priest was from India, and she said, "Oh, that's weird. Indian Catholic." And I said, well, St. Thomas went to India in 52 AD and spread the gospel and started the Catholic Church. There's Catholic churches there that date from 52 AD, which she thought was amazing. And I said, he was killed for the faith 20 years later, I think 72 AD in India. And I said, St. Thomas was the apostle that doubted Jesus. I said, there's even hope for us doubters when our faith is weak. St. Thomas said, I'm not going to believe, because he wasn't there when Jesus appeared to the apostles. And when the apostles told him Jesus is alive, he rose from the dead, he's like, I can't believe that. I'd have to touch the wounds in his hands and the wounds on his side to believe that. So when Jesus appeared to Thomas, he didn't say, you horrible doubting Thomas. He said, come here, Thomas, touch the wounds on my hand, touch the wounds on my side. And then Thomas said, my Lord and my God, and was willing to die for him. And then later that day, I was, I sell energy drinks now, Omni Energy. And I was in was in a vape shop, smoke shop, vape shop, that I used to sell bang to years ago. And the young man named there was Max. And I had forgotten his name. He forgot my name, but we remember each other. And when he said Max, I said, oh, Maximillian Kolbe, my favorite saint. Have you ever heard of him? He said, no. So I told him the story about Saint Maximillian Kolbe. I said, yeah, he was in a Nazi concentration camp when the guard called 10 men he was going to randomly starve to death. And one of them happened to be a father and a husband with his wife and children there. And he started crying. And Maximillian Kolbe, father Maximillian Kolbe, now Saint Maximillian Kolbe, asked the guard if he could die in their place. And he did. And the kid, he's a young dude. He's like, whoa, that's what's up, bro. I never heard that story. Thank you. And I said, there's no greater love than a man lay down his life for a friend. He's like, word. So when I drove away, I'm thinking, yeah, the saints story, people don't want to hear preaching, but they love stories. And the Catholic Church has been here 2,000 years. And the Lord has blessed us with the greatest saints in the church, that we can share their stories. And I said, why didn't I think of this before? And then I thought, well, I actually did this before, but not even really thinking that I was doing it. I remember years ago, I was speaking to a woman who kind of had a negative view of the Catholic Church. She felt like they were very condemning, and she couldn't go there because they would condemn her because she was on her 5th marriage. In fact, her brother was a joker. He used to joke that she had more rings than Tom Brady. I know that's not funny, but he was just busting her chops. She laughed. But I know she was a hurt, wounded woman. She was like a tough, very tough, choleric woman, but I could tell she was hurting. And I said, Jesus' first missionary was married 5 times. And she's like, really? And I said, yeah. When Jesus spoke to the woman at the well, he said to her, where's your husband? And she said, I don't have one. He said, that's true. You had 5, and the guy you're shacking up with now isn't your husband. I said, and then he revealed to her that he was the Messiah. And it says she dropped her water jugs and ran and evangelized her whole town. I said, I can't tell you it's right to divorce and remarry. It goes against what the church teaches, what Jesus taught. I said, but there's mercy. I said, when that woman dropped her water jugs, theologians tell us that symbolized she left the world behind. She no longer needed a man. She encountered Jesus. And when you encounter Jesus, you don't need anybody. You don't need anybody. And I said, the story doesn't end there. That's where it ends in the Bible, that she evangelized her town. But history tells us that she became one of the greatest evangelists in the church, that she was called an equal to the apostles. She wasn't equal in their authority. She didn't have an authority of an apostle, but she evangelized as many people as the apostles. And Nero killed her for this and threw her into a well, and she died in a well. And ironically, the place she met the man she loved more than anyone is the place she went to be with the man she loved more than anybody for all eternity. And I said, so, Pope Francis recently came out and said, if you've been married and remarried, and go to confession, confess these sins of adultery, and live as brother and sister. He said, there's, and he, of course, he got criticized by those who criticize anything the guy says, but basically what he was saying was, especially if you have small children, live as brothers and sisters, live in separate rooms, but you can stay in the same house, and provide for the children. Ain't gonna know what you guys do at night, so all things are possible for God if you just follow him and be willing. And you say, well, I need a man, I need to sleep with a man, or I need a woman, I need to sleep with a woman. All things are possible for God. Like the woman at the well, she didn't, once she left her water jugs, once she encountered Jesus, she didn't need anything. And this is real. God is real. And if you need more faith, we have St. Thomas as an example. Ask him to show you. God, is this real? Is what blue-collar Catholics telling me is real? Can I really become dependent on you, that I don't have to depend on a man or a woman or anybody? So These are my lessons on how a saint can evangelize. And then when I left each of these people, I asked for the saint to pray. Oh, and by the way, the woman at the well, getting off track, the woman at the well, she was baptized by the apostles, and they gave her the name Fatini as her baptism name, meaning the enlightened one. And the church venerates her as Saint Fatini. So when I talk to a woman I think is hurting, I ask Saint Fatini to pray for her. When I talked to that young man named Max, I asked Saint Maximillian Kolbe to pray for him. And I even told him, I said, yeah, you're getting a rough time, man. Ask Saint Max to pray for you. He will, bro. He's alive in heaven today. You know that guy's in heaven. He goes, yeah, I know he's in heaven. He was very touched by the story. So, and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, so my point is, if you're always talking positive about the Catholic Church, you can get people interested, and you're not coming across preachy. You're not coming across condemning. You're coming across matter of factly. This is truth. This is history. You can look up everything I'm saying, and it draws people to give the Catholic Church a second thought, versus those who are constantly bashing the church, pointing out all its flaws and faults, and literally going on YouTube and lying about the church. These people, no matter how godly they seem, they are puppets of the devil. If you hear someone bashing Pope Francis, turn them off, unsubscribe, honestly. You think a non-Catholic's going to listen to someone bashing the Pope and telling how horrible the church is? They're going to want to be Catholic? It doesn't work that way. In fact, I know people, they literally send me emails. They left the church because of guys like Taylor Marshall. Catholic for Rednecks, John over there, told me he binge watched Taylor Marshall and he was about to leave the church, you know? So turn these guys off. They're toxic. And they're toxic for your soul too. Like I had people, people tell me, oh man, I just feel so miserable. You know, my stomach's always feeling lousy. I never have any energy. And I'm like, well, what'd you eat yesterday? And basically they ate sugar all day. And I said, what'd you eat last night? And they went home and had fast food and a couple beers. I'm like, and you're wondering why you feel like crap? The same thing for our mind. If you're filling your mind with toxic thoughts, how evil the church is and how evil the Pope is, and there's only a few of us, the remnant, the cults always call themselves the remnant. There's only a few of us that know the truth, and we know better than the Pope, and we know better than the magisterium. We know better than the bishops. Listen to us, Some of these guys really believe that, but a lot of these guys are just grifters. They're getting a lot of money from a group that's not in union with Rome called the SSPX. And, yesterday it came out in the Catholic news that this is like the third SSPX priest in the last few months. And, if you go back from the beginning, Marcel Lefebvre covered for an SSPX priest, Carlos Uragati, and all these SSPX priests abuse little boys, And what I noticed is these guys that bash Pope Francis, they're not mentioning it. Imagine if this was a priest that loved Pope Francis and that was in union with Rome, they'd be talking about it. Oh, this is the fruit of the Novus Ordo. This is the fruit of Vatican II. But they're silent. They're not talking about this SSPX priest who admitted for 15 years. You don't think his people around him knew this? So, be careful who you listen to. I got a lot more to say about that, and I plan on making a couple videos. But my point of this video is, if you're going to share the gospel, you got to love the gospel. And if you want to bring people home to the Catholic Church, you got to love the church. And what's not to love? We're never saying the church is perfect, but we do know historically and biblically it's the church that Jesus started. We're the only church that can prove historically that Jesus Christ started us. Something to really be proud of. So God bless, stay Catholic, and do me a favor. If you're buying or selling real estate, go to realestateforlife.org and tell them Blue Collar Catholic sent you. God bless.